I'm gonna see if we can physically set this in here and see kind of what we're working with space-wise, just to get a rough idea. Ooh, that's not high enough. Well. Move this back over here. Actually. Here's the adapter plate I got for, basically it's supposed to turn the Volkswagen bell housing and make it made up to the Ford transmission. So I think this is overpriced for what it is, but just my 2 cents. Everything in this box was like 1,500 bucks. So and I got some universal engine mounts. Went ahead and picked that up with that. So, but it does come with all your bolts and hardware. And this is the flywheel adapter. It's supposed to make it go from the Volkswagen flywheel, where you can put the factory Ford flywheel on. So we'll try all this out. See how it works. So here's the piece that is supposed to bolt to the Volkswagen. So that should go like that. I guess we'll go something like this. It does have different bolt holes where you can clock the engine a certain way, because in the car it sits at an angle. So I do see this coolant line's definitely in the way, but that's all I'm seeing at the moment that's in the way. So okay, I think I got it figured out where all my bolts go. So let's set this guy back on here. So I'm guessing it goes right through here, like so. Whenever you do this, put red Loctite on all these. Right now I'm just putting this on here temporarily. It's gonna be off and on here a couple times. So and here's this flywheel adapter. This is actually kind of cool. It'll go on there, line it up of course, but go on there, and then it should bolt the factory Bronco flywheel to it. It's made for a Ford Ranger, but I think the flywheels are the same bolt pattern, so we should be good. I'm thinking this here will go like so. I don't know if it goes this way. I would think it does, because that's how the starter slot lines up. So if I put it this way, then yeah, so it does go this way. So here's what she looks like with the adapter on. I just put 2 bolts in this here because all these other ones, they don't want to thread in very well. So I'm going to get a tap and run through them, almost like they was tapped to the wrong size. But then I'll set the starter on here, just looking, so that fits good. So I'm going to take that back off and see if I can find a way to set this down in there just to get a rough idea what we're looking for on clearance. So I'm going to figure something out. Let you guys see what we're physically working with. She's in here about half sideways, but so you can see right here that coolant line right there. We'll have to shorten that up. That's interfering, but honestly, and then that piece of exhaust I just left on there is close, but I don't think, I'm not 100% till it's in its said spot, but I really don't think that this heater box is going to be much of an issue, because you see, once I'll cut that down, move it back in here somewhere, so then that gives us all this room. You don't want this too close to this plastic, but put some insulation on it and we might be okay. Let's go to the other side. Now over here, now you can see over here that AC compressor is right touching that power steering box. So that's probably going to be our big issue, which we don't have to have AC, not a big deal. Be nice if we did. And then right now that oil cooler's touching the frame. Of course, this engine's kind of tilted the wrong way too, so. And you can see there's, if you guys can see, we gotta, just needs to come back another inch or two. And up here, that vacuum pump is barely hitting right there, so if we drop this thing down a little bit, that'll be good back in there. And then we'll have to drop the front down some more, which won't be too big of a deal. But I did, so what I did, I set it in here with the tractor, as you guys saw, and then I just set the oil pan on that cross member, and then I hooked my makeshift cherry picker back up, so that way I can lift it and maneuver it around and leave it hang here. So that's why I didn't want to use a tractor, because you can't. It's kind of hard to be gentle with it, and with one person it's a little bit tricky, but it wasn't too bad. So about all I got time for today. So when I get back at it, I'll raise this back up, pull that AC compressor off, that coolant line off over on the other side, and then we'll start seeing how we're looking for clearance. But it'll definitely have to go down, because you can see right here, the top of this guy is well over the fender, so the hood's definitely not going to clear the top of that intake. So she's definitely going to have to go down. Let's see how much room we got to go down. Yeah, there's a little bit, because that engine's going to come over. Yeah, she's still got a good 3 inches that it can come down. So we'll come back another day and mess with it some more. So it's been about a week since I have been working on this Bronco, or since you last seen me. So now basically what I'm going to do is lift the engine out and take off a lot of these parts. I don't know why I left this piece of exhaust on here. Take it off. And I need to take this coolant line off, as I mentioned. And I'm going to put a mark where I need to cut it and move it back to. I think right in... If I cut this flange right here and move it back here, we should be in good shape there. So I'll put a mark there and go from there. So let's take it off, pull the AC compressor off and that stuff off, and then set it back in here and see what we're looking like. So here it is with all that stuff off. So I'm looking at this thing, and this power, because this engine has to come over, this power steering pump is right in the way of the steering box with it. And it also needs to come down just a little bit, because this won't clear the hood. However, it is touching the transmission back here, so that is pretty close in there. And the clearance up here, it clears the vacuum pump and everything, barely. So I might have to tap this firewall back in with a hammer a little bit, but it's actually looking pretty good. And what I was concerned with was this heater box being in the way. But I think because the starter is going to be right down here, and then I'll just make a downpipe that turns and comes around and wrap it with something to keep the heat off of this box, and we might be okay there. Then none of this turbo stuff is, you know what I mean, it's got plenty of room here. So what I'm running into is these Volkswagen accessories are just right in the way. So what I'm thinking is, here is the original Ford power steering pump bracket, and then the AC compressor went up here. And then over here I have the alternator, which would go on this side. So what I'm thinking is just ditch this Volkswagen alternator and compressor, or power steering pump. Just ditch this whole contraption, get the engine where I want it, and then fabricate these mounts to work, and get somebody to make me a V-belt pulley to go down here, and then just run the V-belts with all the factory Ford accessories. So I think that's going to be our better option clearance-wise. So, and then I do believe I am going to have to cut and lower this cross member, because it's basically touching the oil pan, and it needs to come down to probably 2 inches, I would say, because this is, you know, the hood's going to sit, it'll be close, probably 1.5 inches would be enough. So I don't know how low I can go in there, because there is a, you know, a drive axle under there, or shaft, whatever you want to call it. So I don't know how low exactly I can go, but I'm thinking now I'm just gonna pull this whole accessory thing off of here, get it centered up, and maybe make some marks and notch the cross member out. See if we can get it lowered down and maybe kind of mock up some mounts. It's kind of what I'm thinking, because it's good this way, and I'm gonna try and use, people wondering, the Ford radiator and AC condenser, because if I go this route using the Ford stuff, I should be able to keep AC, because I don't see it interfering with this box, which is what I was concerned with. Because the engine, I mean, you can see it's kind of in there at an angle, so the back will turn and the front will go over a little bit, but I don't think I'm gonna have a whole lot of issues with this box, which is awesome, because the people I talked to that said they did it said they had issues with it, and just looking at it, I thought I was, but I think we're gonna be okay. We're running into height wise. I guess I could just put a hood scoop on it. I'm just joking. We're not doing that. But let me get to the other side. Over here we're close, but it looks like even the oil cooler and everything is going to clear all that. However, this engine needs twisted some too. But in order for it to come over, we got to get this power steering pump off. So I'm thinking that's going to be, honestly, probably the best option is just run the Ford accessories. If I can get someone to make me a pulley that'll bolt up to that runs the V-belt. So I'm gonna lift this back up and take the rest of this accessory stuff off, then set it back in here and see what we're working with. I think this is going to be the trick there, because without all this crap on here, look at how much room we got everywhere. So, and luckily that oil cooler will clear just behind that. So it's good. It's touching the transmission. Of course, the transmission will come up a little bit. It's sitting down on the cross member, so it'll come up. So the back is set about the right height. I just need this front to come down. I mean, just like 1.5 inches, because it is just eyeballing it from here where the hood's gonna lay. That's gonna be touching. So if I can get 1.5 inches down on the cross member to set that oil pan on down a little bit, I think this thing's gonna fit in here perfect. It'll just be fabricating all the accessories on each side to work, but I don't think that's gonna be too awful bad. And then this vacuum actuator for the turbo, she's got 3 inches of clearance between this. So the engine's got to be twisted this way, so it's going to lose a little bit. And if I go down 1.5 inches, this is going to be really close to this frame, is the only thing I'm seeing. Yes, I'm going to do some measuring and get this thing kind of centered where it's supposed to be, and then mark and then cut it out and see if we can lower it down just a little bit more, and then mock up some engine mounts for it. Alright, so I got me some rough markings, drew where I want to cut this out at. So, cut it out. I'm going down 1 inch in the front and around, because this in the front sits higher than the back. So the back I'm just going to leave alone. I'm going to cut whatever that thing is out too. So it's going to get noisy. I'm going to fire up the welder and get to it. quite a bit has happened since the last time I had the camera on. So the engine is bolted to the transmission back there, if you can see. And I got this thing hanging right about where it's supposed to be. So I do want to shift it this way just ever so slightly, but that's not a big deal. That drain pan down there, or drain plug, is a little bit close there. But this, we still have 1.5 inches on this turbo actuator, so that's good clearance there. Looking at everything else, come to this side. Everything, the oil cooler, it clears this steering shaft and all that, so that is nice. Everything back there is good. Vacuum pump's not even touching on the firewall, so I do believe you can see the engine's dead against that. I need to just pull it that way a little bit, but it's free hanging there attached to the transmission. So I got the majority of the bolts in it just loosely, just because it has to be hooked to the transmission to make the mounts for it. So, and then hood clearance, if you can see, but that guy there, it's gonna be super close for clearing this. It's so close, I don't think it'll have any interference issues, but if it does, it's going to be so minor that I can just cut a little bit out of the bottom of the hood if we have to. Hopefully we don't, but I do not think that the hood's going to be an issue with the top of that. It's looking pretty good, so see what we got for engine mounts and get back to you. Okay, so here's the engine mounts tack welded in there on each side. So I bought these universal engine mounts from the same place I got this adapter. Again, they're overpriced, and then what really got me was this hole they have designed for this motor mount bolt to go down through wasn't even drilled the right size, so I drilled a size bigger to get the bolt they sent me to go with it. Then they didn't even send me bolts to bolt the mount to the block, and so it's overpriced. I wouldn't buy another one. So that is all tacked in there. So now all I got to do is pull the engine back out, and then we will finish welding them up, add the little triangle braces to all that, and get it all set up real nice. So I guess that's what we'll get to now. Check it out. Here's the motor mounts I came up with. So that part there goes on the Volkswagen, on this side of the Volkswagen like that. The welds on here, they turned out pretty nice. I welded that with 3/32, 7018, so turned out pretty nice. Here's the other one. And it will go, you know, like this way on this side. So, not too shabby. And then, down here on the frame, I got that going there. Got that going there. So, those should be pretty stout. I don't think we'll have any issues with those. And the engine did come out and clear in between the two mounts, so that's not an issue. I'm going to trim just a little bit more on this bottom cross member and then put a plate up and under it. Just make sure everything clears. So I feel like I should probably set the engine back in here and see how she looks. So here's the mounts bolted on the engine. So here's that side, spin it around. There's that side. They don't interfere with anything, so I'm liking that. I need to cut this point off of the back. I'll do that later. And yes, I am going to paint these, just not this second, because this is still got to come in and out quite a few more times. So plus I'd like it to be warmer before I paint. But there's those, so I guess I'll set it back down in there and make sure they line up. Check this out. So the engine is sitting in here by itself, bolted in where it's supposed to be. So there's the engine mount on this side. And this side, the transmission's bolted to the back of it. I don't know if you can see it back there, but it is bolted to it. Everything looks good. I don't see nothing's rubbing. That vacuum pump back there, it's pretty close to the firewall, so we'll bend that in a little bit, but I mean, it's not touching. So pretty sweet. And then this oil filter, it's close to the steering, but again, it's not touching, so, and there's enough room, it should never get against that. And back there, I mean, it's looking pretty good. The oil pan is a little close down here on this side. It's not touching, but I am going to notch out that just a little bit more, just so it's got some extra room. But I set this thing in here, and these motor mounts just fell in like butter. I didn't have to like pry or push or anything. They just bolted the transmission up and dropped the bolts through them and lined up perfect. So every now and again a blind squirrel gets a nut. So we're looking pretty good. The biggest thing for making all this room was getting rid of all this Volkswagen junk right here. So hopefully we can fabricate up and use the Ford mounts. I don't think it'll be too bad mounting them. Just getting this pulley made the way I want it might be interesting. Yeah, I'm liking how this is looking in here. I mean, everything's fitting good. It should clear the hood. I think it's low enough that that's not going to hit. Like I said, if it does, it will be, I mean, ever so slight. But then the vacuum actuator, it's got room between the frame here. So, yeah. So it is now sitting in here on its own in its soon-to-be permanent resting spot. So, I'm actually pretty surprised this wasn't that bad. So, I guess I will wrap this video up here, and then next time we will either be working on making all the brackets and stuff to mount I think the alternator goes on this side, then the power steering and AC goes on this side. Hopefully we can put them up pretty high so they don't clear any of this, because we got all kinds of room, you know, this way and this way, so that'll be pretty sweet. And I believe we are going to get to keep AC, so that's going to be a huge plus. But anyways, you guys have a good day. We'll catch you in the next one.